What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Be Better podcast. This is a episode that I've been looking forward to for the past couple weeks here. Episode 28 with our good friend over at Nobelltrading, Josh. Josh, how you doing?
Doing great, man. How you both doing?
Living life, brother.
Doing
Oh,
good, dude.
word. Beautiful, beautiful.
Well,
It's
yeah, man.
happy.
Hey, thanks for coming on. I just want to say that first and foremost. I know we've been looking forward to this for a couple weeks. I know you and Matt have been in communication trying to lock this in. We've had some schedule changes on our end, so we apologize, but we're super pumped to have you now.
Yeah, absolutely. I had no worries. Good way to top off Easter. That's a little
That's right.
cherry. Yeah,
Hey,
cherry on the
That's right.
egg.
Yeah, man. In the weekend strong, have a lot of fun. So I'm super curious, man. I know we're on a little bit of a shot clock, so I just want to learn as much as I can about you and Noble Trading. So tell me, man. Like, obviously, you're a day trader. Like, when did all that start? Like, when did you make the break from the 9 to 5 slavery into freedom?
Well, it was a leap. It's probably the riskiest job transition you can make, honestly.
100%.
I was doing a well-paid sales job, and I had already been in the market for several years. Started in college. I was buying up biotechnology stocks because I had majored in biotechnology and biochemistry, and I was already realizing back then a lab job pays next to nothing. This is also not what I want to do. I'm incredibly bored. I had to spend 5 years for a PhD to make still next to nothing. No thanks. So I immediately tried to go after sales. Couldn't get a sales job in biotech, super hard. So I went to insurance sales, stacked some bread there. And then at the same time, I'm trading like all the time and I'm investing. And then was starting to get really good. About 2020, when the market blew up, I watched stocks that I had paid five, $10 go to $380 or more and higher. And I was hitting it big. And unlike a lot of people, I was like, this is a massive bubble. Everyone's gonna get burned. No one's really paying attention. They don't know what they're doing. But I had done tons of historical analysis. I already had like very solid fundamentals laid out for my learning. So I recognized it for what it was immediately. That's when I tried to found Nobelltrading, try to tell people, hey, Bitcoin's topping out here in 2021. Like these are some of the big calls that actually launched us back then was me saying or trying to pound the table on a lot of these names. Like this is a bubble for sure. Like it's so obvious and people who are new didn't see it. So that was like around there probably about right before 2020, right before the market crash, is when I went ahead and took that leap because I had worked at, I had already left my sales job, went to work at TD Ameritrade, figured out that they suck at this too. I thought I was going to learn more. I thought an industry job be good. Try to go to hedge fund. I realized that sucks too. They didn't want a guy who knew how to do genetic engineering if he didn't have something on a piece of paper that said he could read a balance sheet. I
That's right.
To think that that's harder
Yeah.
than what I had to do is just like incredibly naive.
Are you talking about a Series
So
7? Is that what they were wanting?
yeah, I mean, I had my no. They were wanting a business degree basically.
Oh, okay.
I had a Series 7. I've had my licensings in the past. None of them are active right now. I'm not a financial advisor, which is why I can do what I can do because
Right.
there's the way the industry is. It's just completely. I mean, it's completely fucked to be honest. But there's so little quims about what I cannot do legally. But that's when I took that leap, and now when I have a bad day at work, I lose money.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
all the
Worse.
risk is on you, right? I mean, I love what you said
yeah,
about taking the leap, right? We've talked about it on the podcast with other people before. Taking the leap of faith. I mean, there's two ways to get wealthy in this world. One, real estate. We all agree with that. Real estate's the
yep,
way to go. Two, being your own boss, starting your own business, taking that leap of faith, right? And that's the only two ways in my mind that you're really going to get wealthy. In your case, you're doing a little bit of both, which is fantastic. But I just want to commend you before we get into the meat and potatoes. I want to commend you for taking that leap of faith because I can't tell you how many people probably go to their deathbed wondering, what if?
yeah,
What if I would have did this? What if I would have started the business? What if I would have left my 9 to 5 at a biotech engineering place or, a biomedical engineering, whatever the situation is?
yeah. I
Left my
mean,
sales job.
Yeah, the
yeah.
ball's up there. Big.
My my whole thought then was like, man, I could blow everything up and lose everything. I still can. You hear about it. You hear about some traders, they lose millions and they do it in a span of like 3 months. And when you ask them what happened, they can't even tell you what happened. They lost control of their emotions.
Right.
There's a point of doing this when you do this long enough where money doesn't even feel like money. It's just numbers on the screen. You kind of get this disconnect that develops really, really easily. So it could be really easy to blow yourself up. But even then, even if that were to happen, the knowledge base and everything I've learned from that at this point, like I could build it all back up. And even if I did blow it all up, even if everything failed, it's so much better than being on my deathbed, being like, man, I should have done that. Cause that sucks.
Yeah, dude. It's better to have had it
Yeah.
all and lost it than to never have had it at all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I firmly have believed that in every asset and every facet of my life. I would rather be on top for 6 minutes than to be at the bottom of the mountain my whole life. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the reality of it, right? Like you said, what's heavy is if you make it to the top once, why couldn't you make it back? Why
Yeah.
what would be stopping you from making it back if you ever did fall off, right?
Right.
Well, let's transition to then the start of your business. So you made the leap of faith. Tell me kind of how you came up with your business model, like who your ideal client is, what your purpose is, all that good stuff.
Well, I mean, you want the long version or the short version? I'll give you. I'll try to shorten up a little bit because it's kind of funny. I we had like a little Snapchat group, and I was starting to teach people who are interested, who had the money to trade. I was teaching them. We were having a ton of success. Then it got too big for Snapchat. I needed some other medium to move to, and I was looking at Discord, which we were using to game in, and I was like, oh, like I could get the background coding of this. I could like make bots that track the news for me
Right.
and all kinds of stuff. I thought was a super original idea at the time. I didn't know about FinTwit, which some people might not know about that, but there's all these tools that already exist. I didn't know about any of it. I had been basically living inside a bubble and didn't really have any interactions online or anything. So I built all of this and then found out, oh, there's other people who do this as well. But anyways, so then we learned, we adapted, and then I started growing, become public. I started making social medias. The first TikTok I ever made went like semi-viral, and I was doing well for garnishing attention immediately. And so what we do now and what we focus on is helping people who have some extra money. Maybe it's a portion. They want to take a portion of their investments. They want to try to trade with it. They want to learn about more trading. They want to learn about futures or something like that. Or they come to us and they're like, hey, I don't want a financial advisor eating fees out of my account. I kind of want to manage my investments. Like, what do the big fish do? What are the top hedge fund managers who beat the market for 10 years in a row? What are they doing? So we try to pull the veil down because this industry is a bunch of smoke and mirrors. A lot of this industry is making everything seem more complex than it is so that you'll pay them to do it for you. That's the huge lie for a lot of this.
In other sectors as well, I feel like too. I mean,
Yeah.
nutrition. I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't know how to, make a good plate that hits their goals, but you could go and pay other people and they could do the same thing just for you, just for
Yeah.
time's sake.
Yeah, I would agree though. I think what you said though is the biggest factor that is like it's all smoke and mirrors of complexity, right?
Yeah.
Reason why is because if everybody knew how to do it, which your program says that everybody can learn, right? But if everybody
Right.
knew how to do it, then how many people of those guys would be out of a job, right? I mean, that's the
Yeah.
whole point, right? So, hey, you could do it. We're going to make it seem really difficult, so you pay us to do it.
Yeah.
And in return, you're probably going to get fucked the whole time. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I mean, at Nobelltrading, we also know I don't feed into delusion. So you're gonna come to us, and I'm not gonna promise you're gonna get overnight rich. I'm not even gonna promise you that you can be trader. There's a very specific type of personality you gotta have. You gotta be able to keep your emotions in check. There is a baseline of IQ that you're gonna need to have to learn this.
sure.
Anyone can invest, not everyone can trade. So if you want to learn whether you're one of those people that can do this, like we'll find out. We'll definitely take that journey and get to the bottom of it. But I'm definitely not here. I'm not here selling pipe dreams and nonsense. Like we're gonna really dive deep into what actually matters and be
Yeah.
blunt about it.
Yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
do you
So
manage accounts at all, or is it just pure educational?
I do. I will not trade money for anyone. There's a bunch of weird legalities with that. So no, I will not do that. But I do openly share all my trades. My name is staked on pretty much everything that we do. Even if you follow me on X, I'm calling out investments, different trade ideas all the time. So egg on my face if I get something wrong. However, I've been doing this for 4 years on a consistent daily basis, always sharing a different idea, and I write a lot.
That's good. I mean, so that's
Yeah.
so like, even though you're not technically managing people's accounts for those reasons, what you said, I could still be like, oh, hey, Josh traded X for today, right? He did this today. I should just follow suit.
Yeah. I mean, you want to be making sure, and as we teach a lot of our members on what your look, if you want to break this down at a risk profile, risk management, number one thing everyone screws up, but risk management can be really simple, right? Let's talk about what your account size is, because that's going to dictate what kind of trades you can take, right? Because sometimes if I'm sharing trades in the Discord, I might label something as a lotto. And like trading is not gambling, but it can be gambling. Okay. I have a larger account. I can set, some money on fire to try and go for a wild play that might make me 1,000%, but it is a lotto. You need to understand what it is, right? I'll have other trades where I'll say, okay, this one has we have a very tight risk here. So there's not a lot of risk we're taking. We got some decent reward. But when you're trying to develop that risk portfolio, what we break down is your account size, your short-term goals, your long-term goals, and then how much loss can you take in that account? Some guys come to me. I had one guy come to me. He's got $600,000, and he's like, I'd really not like to lose more than like 10,000 though. And I'm like, oh, okay. You're not a trader. Bye. That's
Yeah.
not gonna happen, buddy. You're
That's gonna
gonna
be a
have some
headache.
moves. There's gonna be some moves here.
Yeah.
You're also gonna have a learning curve. And people always get mad when they lose money in the markets. They don't get mad when they write a 6-digit check to the college. Like, this is a lesson you're going to have to learn. It's going to cost money. Anything you're trying to learn is going to cost you some money.
For sure.
So,
And there's
and
no
it's
guarantees though, right? Like that's the whole point.
right.
There's no guarantees. I mean, I'm sure you have algorithms and data that you play with that make your decisions you would think the best, but like, dude, things could turn at the drop of a hat and there's no way you could know that, So
Right.
like you're at the
Yeah.
mercy of the market always.
Yeah. Well, you should price your trades in a way that you price your trades, expect zero. Everyone screws up because they think, oh, if I put this much in, I could maybe make this much. When you need to think, oh, I need to put this much in and I could lose all of it. Like for every trade, it doesn't matter really how convicted you are. Now, there will be a point where you start to break that rule. I break that rule all the time. I'll see something, usually 3 or 4 times a year. I'll see something and I'll be like, this is my home run, probably. The reality is, I probably make, I don't know, 15,000 trades a year. And probably in 3 or 4, I make half of what I'm going to make for the year because I just see that golden opportunity. I see the stars align. I know this is the moment where I can swing big. And I mean, that's just the reality of it. The only way you get those opportunities though, is
Is to play.
you stare at these charts all day, every day.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing that, you don't catch these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, what you
Yeah.
said is what is literally the definition, right? Like, you said swing big, so I'll use a baseball analogy. I mean, dude,
Yeah.
are you gonna fucking hit a grand slam every time you're up to the plate? Definitely not, dude. But like, in order to hit the grand slam, you have to swing at the ball,
Yes.
and that's the reality. Are you gonna strike out sometimes? Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, it's almost a given. If you hit if you do 30% of your job, you're in the Hall of Fame in the MLB. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're above 300 on your batting average, you're in the fucking Hall of Fame. So
Right.
that's, I mean, you're only good 1/3 of the time. I mean, so I'm sure your
Mhm.
numbers are better than that, So God bless.
Oh yeah.
That's fantastic.
Well, and there's also different ways to trade because that's just for me. I'm just one of the guys, right? We have another trader who trades completely differently, where I'm buying bets, he's selling bets. So most people suck at this. 90% of people aren't profitable. He's selling them all the bets. So he takes these one-time big losses, but he's right 90% of the time. He plays a totally different game. He trades in a completely different way. And that's the type of trading style that anyone can do. But it requires a lot more capital. So like we teach different styles as well. The way I trade is way more fun though.
What is that called? I've heard that before, but what's the mythology of that? What's that called?
Well, you would call it just sell side. He's a sell side option trader. So people, options are leveraged bets on the stock market, basically, in the most simplistic way to describe it possible.
Can you give an
And
example?
what was that?
Can you give an example?
An example of an option trade, or yeah. So like, if I can give an example of a trade I've taken actually this year. That would probably be like Celsius. This one was a wild ride. because the beginning of the year, I thought Celsius was really appealing. I'm talking about the energy drink company, by the way. They're the third largest energy drink. They're probably stronger growth than both Monster and Red Bull. They just they had a upcoming partnership with Pepsi for distribution internationally, which was super huge. So I was looking at that as a catalyst for growth. So I bought option contracts for to say that to bet that the stock would go to $75. I believe at the time that I set that up, it was trading at like, I want to say like $58 or something. So we set that up. The first few week it does well. We're up like 10% on the position, right? And then Bank of America puts out a report that they're bearish on Celsius. And they put out all these numbers and say that it can't persist, it can't continue to grow, and that the duopoly in energy drinks between Red Bull and Monster can't be disrupted by this company. And I'm like, okay, you say that, but I can look at the growth numbers. I can look at their balance sheet. I can see the sales here. You're gonna tell me that this is just isn't real, that this is just gonna somehow just fall apart just because before we get the partnership with distribution on Pepsi. So I laughed that off. I bought more stock and we just let the trade ride. I think at the lowest point after that report, the trade was down 60%. And I had a lot of people who were in the group that are like, yo, John, or like on a daily basis, like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we still in this trade? Like, I'm watching my money bleed. And I was like, that Bank of America bunch of nonsense. Who cares? And that contract expired. So that's the thing. That's the difficulty here, right? You buy a contract, you have a time that expires. It'll expire worthless, or maybe just a fraction of the value you had. So you kind of want to 90% of the time want to unload those before the expiration date, right? So today, right now, the stock's at $82. The high was 88. Everything we're looking for to play out with that catalyst. The stock made a massive rebound. We ended up making 150% on those options. It was about probably like a month of like pain of like, holy cow, no one wants to buy this after that dumb Bank of America report that didn't mean anything.
Why do
But
you
yeah,
think Bank of America makes those type of reports? Do they want to do something with the like? What are they trying to do with the to the buyers? Like, what do you think they try to do?
I mean, the analysts do things for a number of reasons. I know a lot of analyst writers, and they literally are trying to ride. A lot of them are trying to ride whatever hype's going on, and they get bonuses if what they say happens. So if something's already headed down, they'll put out something bearish about going more down.
Mm,
Because if they're right and they just snag some of that attention because they also need the clicks, like that's the game they play. They don't. Most of them do not play a game of actually being right. Most of them play the game of just capturing the hype, like anyone else in news, basically, just to capture the eyeballs. So, Bank of America probably did their own analysis and they had some guy who didn't like energy drink. I mean, I was reading bearish reports on Celsius that were like, oh, the way that they advertise caffeine as a thermogenic is inaccurate. And I was like, yeah, you're right. But they all do that because it works. As the business guy who follows the numbers, I was a scientist too. Like, I get that. Supplement industry is a bunch of nonsense, all the real thermogenics are banned. I know that. But I also look at the numbers and I say the reason they do this because it sells amazing. Like it works. Yeah, I'm not gonna look at that as a negative. I'm sorry. It just works. It always works. There's a bunch of historical analysis to say that this is a great marketing tactic. So, yeah, there's a bunch of fluff on, it's still better than the competition, which is why I still like it from that
mm,
fundamental view. But these marketing tactics, you might not like them, but they always work. So what do you want me to do? Yeah,
so
I'm
yeah,
not gonna not make money off of it when I see the opportunity.
For sure. I
absolutely.
mean, another
Yeah,
interesting part of stocks, right, is like um there's so much there's so much influence from just like people that should not be influencing those stocks. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
for example, right? I love Elon Musk. I'm a huge fan. But if he tweeted right now, Celsius is the best energy drink ever, through the
oh
roof.
Huh.
yeah,
Through the fucking roof, right? And like
right,
he's a brilliant man, but like what does he know about energy drinks? You know what I mean? So it's
right,
Yeah.
I always think it's very funny how volatile that market is because somebody that like fucking Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Like that dude's an actor. He's probably the best actor of all time. I think he's a douchebag in real life, but he's a great actor, right? He's a big
yeah,
environmentalist. He's huge on the EV train. dude, if he says something on Instagram or Twitter about electrical vehicles, every EV stock is going up. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just so funny how people will take these advice from people that maybe are not necessarily experts in the field, but because of the influence, because of the hype, because of the fluff, right? Those stock price people are getting very wealthy because of those tweets and because of those Instagram posts. It's absolutely mind-boggling how awesome it's awesome yet uh traumatizing at the same time how the market works.
Well, it's a perfect system. It's a beautiful thing, really. The stock market as a whole. Like, think about it. You have an impossible problem you got to solve. You have to price all things at all times. How are you going to do that without something like a stock market? Like, the only way that you could attempt that is to try and get as many people constantly guessing what the prices of all things should be. You could trade contracts on water, like
Right.
all things at all times. So you want as many people constantly betting on what that price should be to create a market, to have a fair value, to even have some sort of a guess. Like, it's a beautiful system. There would be lots of socialists and stuff who are like, stock market's evil. Like, no, we need this. This is a very necessary thing that exists. And it's a beautiful thing as well. It's a great thing. It's also why you need people who are also putting out short reports and stuff, because you need a distribution of the wealth. If Elon says buy Dogecoin and Dogecoin sucks, honestly. Sorry if some people own Dogecoin, but the workings of the system would never serve as a currency. It's built to be inflationary. It doesn't actually work. It
It's a
wouldn't
meme
work.
coin.
Yeah, it has no longevity. But when you write a short report on it, you crash something like that, that money goes somewhere. That money goes towards something that could be the next big thing. Just like when a company's falling apart, like the people who wanted to buy GME, it's like you actually are doing damage in a real way to the real economy. Because if this money found a home in the next big thing, if this money found a home in a company that was trying to cure cancer, that is a real effect. That company can then take that money and use it for their research. Like, so, the balance and distribution of the money within the stock market and the constant check and balances and all these short reports and stuff has very real effects in the economy and is such a awesome thing that we have for
Yeah, I would definitely
society.
agree with that. I mean,
Yeah.
what I like about the stock market as well, and I'm not as well versed as you are, of course, but what I like about it as well is that everybody has a dog in that fight, right? Like you take a guy that makes $40,000 and now
Yeah.
he can buy into a Fortune 500 company and he's not going to the board meetings, but like he can directly be impacted negatively or positively by the results of that company. I mean,
Yeah.
he can get some dividends that is just if the company does well and he's got a little bit of a stake in it. Let's say he owns 200 shares of Amazon, right? Um, they pay out dividends, he's getting a paycheck from that. I mean, it's allowing him to get a dog in the fight and kind of get some of that action. It's just, I mean, I'm all for it, man. Like, I think the stock market as well is, I wouldn't call it a necessary evil, but I think it's a blessing. I think
Yeah.
it's a necessity that the country needs, and it allows everybody to kind of have that dog in that fight, which is, I think, like I said
Yeah.
before, very important and critical.
Mhm.
And it grows so much faster than people think, even more than just like the average guy. But like you now have things like acorns, which will take, like, it'll round up on the dollar
Yeah,
purchase you make, and then you could buy fractional shares. Never before could you buy fractional shares. That's a very new thing. It's a very huge thing too. It even changes the dynamics of the larger market. Things like Robinhood, kind of gamifying options. There's probably a lot of dangerous things about that, but it has also changed the dynamics of the market. People have routes where, like, if they want to learn this, they don't need as much money than they used to actually have the ability to gain wealth, the ability to experience some of that compound interest and let that accumulate. It is easier than ever to really get into the game, at whatever level you'd like to, and it's everyone should. Even if you're doing real estate or something else, you should have money in the market in some way, shape, or form, even if it is very passive. Although I wouldn't be a fan of that.
yeah. I mean, because even like on the worst years, right? Even in the worst years that our economy has faced, like in the last, let's say 20 years, right? Because I'm 28, so I can only speak for when I was conscious, I like to call it, right? Um, in this case, like the worst year still had positive growth, right? So like you
Yeah.
invest in those sure things as far as the market goes, like you're still making more money than you would if it's sat in your fucking checking account. Like what's the dilemma there? Like what's the question, right? Like you make 0.01% with your $5,000 in your Bank of America account. pump that into the market, you're going to at least get your 9 to 12%. Like that's a
Right.
no-brainer, basic foundational thing to do, you know?
Well, yeah. Well, that's part of the smoke and mirrors, right? Because you could also just do what the bank does. All the bank does is take your money and buy treasury bonds.
Right.
You could literally go to treasury.gov and you could buy those yourself. In fact, you could also take a loan against that money and never have to withdraw it. And the interest rates on those can be like near zero. You could also play a game like that with your life insurance packages. If you have different types of life insurance, like this is what the mega rich do. They loan themselves money. They're their own bank. They don't have a savings account. That's ridiculous. Why would you have a savings account? What the bank does, you can do. And it's at the most simplest form. And it's treasury bonds from the government. It's literally the safest thing you could buy. It might not make you a lot of money. It's always going to make you more than the fraction of what the bank receives when they buy it.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, what's
Mm.
the CD rate right now going like 5%, right? Just for
Yeah,
your
it's probably
traditional
right.
CD. So
Yeah.
like is your treasury is it I did some treasury stuff back in the day, but I haven't done it in a couple of years. What's the rate for that now?
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, it depends on what maturity you're getting, but I mean, these
Let's say
short,
let's say it's a 10-year maturity. What would you assume it would be right now?
it's probably at like 4%.
Yeah, it's kind of rough.
I know, but it's better than the 0.0%
That's
zero
right.
one the bank's
That's
giving
right.
you.
That's right.
Yeah. And I
And
mean,
like you
and
said,
that's
you can take loans against that at 0%. So if you really need the money right now, you have that
right.
liquidity available. So
Right. Exactly. Well, and I mean, also recognize like that's the trade-off you're always going to have. You're going to make that 4%, but you're not going to have a ton of risk associated with it. You could go for the 50%, but you're going to have a bunch of risk associated with it. Like, so understand that there's always going to be a trade-off on that curve. You're
yeah.
going to take it one way or the other, so yeah. So it might not be as exciting. It definitely, like, if I was just buying treasury bonds, I wouldn't be a full-time trader. I'm not sitting here staring at this chart all day to make 5%. No freaking way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
my buddy went to me recently. He had like 4 or 5 grand that I don't know, somebody gave it to him as a gift, maybe a grandparents or something. And he's like, "Hey man, like I really want to do this CD. Should I do it?" I go, "Why the fuck would you do that?" I said, "Your money's gonna be locked in a fucking vault for 14 months. You're gonna get 5%." I was like, "Dude, that's not worth it." I said, I don't know who you bank through, but I use SoFi.
Okay.
SoFi, my savings account gets me 5.1%.
Well, that's
So
fantastic.
it's phenomenal. I was a US bank guy forever. And like whenever SoFi came around and like displayed that to me, I was like, every dollar I have, SoFi, SoFi, SoFi. Dude, I was like, no, man. I'm like, listen, I'm gonna send you this link. I'm gonna get $75 for you signing up. You're gonna put that 5 grand in, into a saving or into your savings account, right? For SoFi. You can use that whenever you like. It's not locked up. And let's say you use $1,000 of it, you still got your 5%. I was like, dude, it's all about liquidity and the percent of interest you're gaining. And he was
Right.
like, dude, this is nuts. Thank you so much for this. I was like, yeah, dude, don't ever do a CD. You never want to lock your money up. It's always about liquidity. You just never know when you're going to need it, and it's bad if you have to beg the bank to give you your money.
All right. Or pay for it.
Or pay a penalty to take it out earlier. I mean, that's
Right.
why I'm not a big fan of the 401k for that reason, right? Like I put all this money in, you're telling me I have to wait till 56 and a half to fucking access it? Like it's cool on
Mhm.
paper, but if my house burns down and I need a new house and I have 100 grand in my 401k, I need that money.
Right.
I don't want to pay, 20% tax on it. It's just, I don't know. There's so many other options. That's why people like you in the market that teach this, you're teaching people financial literacy to be able to go through and not only have liquidity, but also get a good return. I mean, that's what it's
Right.
all about, right? I mean, Josh, if you told me, Nate, you give me $2 today, I'll give you $10 tomorrow. I'd give you every dollar I had.
Right.
Like, and more,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. But when you start playing the tax games, that's when you're also doing all kinds of different things. Like I run all my trading accounts run through an LLC.
mhm.
And so like that's when you can start to play different games with their income taxes and stuff like that to try to alleviate that pain as much as possible because it could be pretty bad.
Oh yeah, taxes.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm taxed at the
Yeah.
26% mark. I hate paying taxes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
why? Because I don't see anything of it, right? I
No.
pay taxes. My roads are still shit. My health, everything in the government's fucked up. The infrastructure is not very good, So like, what am I paying for?
Right.
I'm paying for landmines in fucking Eastern Europe. Like that's, like that's what it is essentially. So I'm right there with you, dude. Anytime legally, of course, because I'm a big proponent of following the law, but like legally, anytime you can kind of get a leg up on the tax system, always do it. Always,
Right.
always do it. Legally, of course. You don't want to be a Wesley Snipes, but legally.
Right. Right. Yeah, 100%. Don't feel bad about it. They burn. There's so many people who have feel certain. I don't know. It's probably going to go down a whole rabbit hole. The one thing I will say that I think a lot of people got the plot wrong on that I see all the time is people are really scared of these CBD DCs, these digital currencies. I think that would be the best thing ever, because so long as it is transparent, because it probably would solve a lot of issues almost overnight. And you see that in Africa when they start using these digital currencies, is all the law enforcement officers suddenly thought they got a raise. And it's because they were no longer scalping off the top as it went down the chain of the government. No one was scalping a little bit of money off top. And all of a sudden, the office, people in law enforcement were like, whoa, I just got a huge raise. It's like, no, you are finally getting paid what you were supposed to get paid. And I'd like to see how many times our government spends $15 for a number 2 pencil or something absolutely ludicrous for no freaking reason.
Yeah, 100%.
That then those digital currencies could bring that transparency. Then maybe I might feel good about paying taxes and not feel like it's a big sham.
I'd be for that too.
Yeah.
But here's the only, I'm
Yeah.
going to play the devil's advocate here because I've looked into it many times, right? So China
Okay.
has a digital currency. Okay.
Right. Okay. There's no.
So here's the problem, right? Let's say,
Okay.
and I'm a libertarian, like I said. So like I try to just see the logic in anything. I
Okay.
tried to stay away from right or left or wherever. I just want to see the logic. Okay. Everything you just said is 100% accurate and it sounds fucking great on paper. Here's the problem. Who has access to that and who can turn it off and turn it on, right? So like,
Right.
for example, in China, if you do not follow the guidelines, we'll say, okay, you're either going to be unalived or they're going to turn off your fucking digital currency. Let's say you had a couple $1 billion in there. Not anymore. They pulled
Right.
it from you, right? So like who has access to that fund and what's there would have to be something in like our constitution, almost an amendment added to where the government could not go through and garnish any kind of thing like that. But unfortunately, they can. Like if you owe, let's say you didn't pay your taxes, but you filed, they will garnish your wage until it's paid back. So
Right.
that's where it's like a little gray area that my concern is. I'm sure in 20 years it goes that way for sure because it's just how the future is going to be. But
Yeah. And you don't have to be worried about that stuff, because the reason the US dollar is #1 king dog of the world is because it is the most trusted. And the instant they give that up, the instant they absolutely screw themselves in every way, shape, and form, we will no longer be a dominant world power. The US dollar is king of all. It is the reason we are in the position we are, the US. It's used for 80% of all global trade. Even when China buys steel from Australia, they're using US dollars.
right,
Most of the foreign countries, so when you start screwing with that in any way, you do any funny business like that, they won't, because they give up all their power if they do that. You think that they could get more power, but actually they'd be giving up way more. So they're not even incentivized to do funny games like that. And there's competition. There's Bitcoin. There's other currencies. If you're if you're worth $1 billion, you're afraid of something like that. Okay, you can exchange your money for Australian dollars. You can go get, the yuan, even if you wanted to. You could already diversify yourself out of that. I mean, that's why it's so hard to tax these rich guys, right? We're going to raise California is going to raise taxes to 60%. And everyone says, okay, I'll just move.
yeah.
Who cares?
I
You guys are idiots.
I love your
Yeah.
optimism on that, and I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I really do because, like, I just try to think of like, the fallacies and things that could happen, right? And like,
Right.
you saw like in Canada, right? For example, whenever those truckers did that the trucker protest, they
Right.
froze all their bank accounts, right? So like, if the United States was ever in the potential of losing control of dominion of the populace, why wouldn't they? That's
Right.
my thought. Why? And I hate to sound like a glass half empty kind of guy, but like, why wouldn't they? That's my always thought. I'm not the kind of guy that keeps 500 grand in my mattress, but like, I do like to know that, no other political figure can go through and pause my bank account if I need to buy groceries.
But Canada's paid, I will say, the the repercussions for them doing that is Canada's paying the ultimate price. You know, projections now for Canada, so much money pulled out of Canada after
Yeah.
all that nonsense, that they're projected to be the worst developed country in the world. They're going to basically, they're projected to be a third world country in the next decade. And they're already the worst developed country in the world. And they toppled from being like near the top to at the bottom in literally like 3 years, which
Yeah,
is
that's a
it's
great
been
point.
you know, I mean, they
That's a
paid
great
for
point.
that. Yeah, so like you don't have to worry. Like they painted a great example of what happens when you do stupid crap like that.
No doubt. And then
Yeah,
you
First
get
of
guys
all,
like Argentina that are pretty much rewriting the book on what to do. And look at Argentina. Now it's one of the
yeah,
most self-sustaining nations in the world. I mean, the economy went from one of the worst in the hemisphere to one of the best. I mean, I agree with you, man. It's short-term things like that that make a difference. What you just said about Canada is so true. I mean,
yeah,
they got away with it for 6 months, but now they're paying the ultimate price, you know?
yeah.
And Argentina struggled for the last 30 years, and now they got a guy in there that, like I said, just pretty much rewrote the book, and
Right.
they're
They're
killing it
really
down there.
they're really interesting. I probably need to take another look at them. I know what you're talking about loosely, but I haven't looked into it a lot. It's a really interesting story though,
It is. It's what
for
you. It
sure.
kind of goes to what you said earlier. Like, so the guy earlier, I always forget his name. I think it's Javier or something, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah.
the guy pretty much went through and what you said earlier, right? So like, what he looked at all the books and he goes, "Why the hell are we paying $15 for a pencil?" Right? So he cut
Right.
out. He fired a ton of government employees that were doing nothing but like yes men work and busy work, and then went through the government spending. It was like, okay, this company told me we can build this bridge for 400 million. Why did it cost 7 billion? Where did that
Yeah.
money go? Right. So he's slimmed down the corruption. He's slimmed down the inflation because of things being overly priced and just getting away with it. And it might be a little too early for me to make this prediction, but like I'm pretty confident that country's going to keep going in the right direction as long as he's still there. I mean, the dude made some big strides, and I mean, he's a libertarian guy as well. He's like, I don't give a fuck what side you're on. I just want to make this place be the best possible, and
Yeah.
it's working.
Yeah, I have a lot of faith in him. The only thing that upsets me is how bad things had to get before someone did that because we need that. And I don't see a lot of people who are willing to do the pain because it's not they had to eat the pain first. They kind
Yeah,
of got lucky that all the big bad happened before they put someone like that in power. And I do not like the looks of what it takes to actually get someone, all the bad things that have to happen before someone gets someone responsible and competent to try and fix it actually in there.
well,
So
that's how Americans
yeah,
are, right? Like, I think
yeah,
truly, I think we live in the greatest country that's ever existed. I'm a very patriotic guy. Look at the logo behind me, right? I mean,
right.
I stand by this country no matter what happens, right? But the problem though is the mentality of the populace has always been this. Like, look at it in dentistry. We'll break it down to the most simplest form in dentistry. Dude, people don't go to the dentist unless they're in throbbing pain. They notice a cavity 6 months before that. They're not going until it's mission critical, right? Like,
Yeah,
so that's just how we've always been, dude. That's how we've always been as a population. You have the outliers, and some people are like, "Oh shit, I have a cavity. I need to go right now and get this taken care of." Right? That's maybe the 1%. But I agree with you, man. I hope as well that it doesn't have to get to the point where, hey, we're backed against the wall. It's either make it or break it kind of a moment.
yeah,
Hopefully, it would be small, implemental, positive things in the right trajectory to get this rolling. That would be the ideal, but we'll see.
yeah. You will. Yeah, it is the most important. Finance should be the most important thing to people who care about social issues. Because trust me, if everyone's broke and inflation's stupid high, no one's going to care about your parade. No one's going to care about your cause. They are going to care at all. No government official, no one. So if you want those things to still be in the news and for people to care, you want these finances in proper order.
Yeah, it's hard for me to
You
rally about your
should.
cause when I'm starving, right? Like
Yeah,
it's hard
yeah,
for me to stand with you in the street and protest about a social issue when, I am not getting basic health care because I can't afford it and I have gangrene and I'm losing my arm. Like it's
yeah.
it's different values there that are locked up. But I want to get back on topic here because I know
Okay.
we went on that rabbit hole for a little bit, which I love doing. So thanks for the journey while me there. Let's go back to reality for a minute. So what about so obviously what we've talked about with you, I mean, obviously the expertise is there. That's apparent. So like, what is kind of like your focus with your clients, right? Obviously the education side is huge, but like kind of like, what do you want to get from your clients other than obviously them paying for you for their services, but like, what do you want to get from your clients? And then the second part of that question, who is your ideal client?
Who's my ideal client is going to be someone who maybe even is retired or has found some financial freedom already and they had the time to watch the market all day. Now that is literally probably going to be none of my clients, and that's okay. So we're looking for people who probably work from home, who have time to watch indicators. A lot of them don't. I mean, these notifications can go to your phone, and then but you have some sort of capability and some money to play with in the market. So we're looking to then teach those people how to analyze the setup for a trade, how to then execute that trade, and then how to manage the risk once they're in it. So we try to handhold all the way through the process. I'll notify people like, okay, we need to start cutting some losses here, or hey, we're up nicely already. We're not at our first target, but these premiums have already moved really nicely. Like, go ahead, lock in some gains, take some profits here, stuff like that. Or we just hit our target. We need to be exiting here, or things have gotten way ahead and over. Like, cut it now, sell everything, take the profits because we're like deep in profits. So we try to really like set that up, teach people the mindset you have to be to do this successfully, and eventually the biggest thing when you shadow someone, even I shadowed someone. I was an okay trader. And then I shadowed a guy who had 30 million, who was full time, who had been doing this for 30 years. And I spent a year learning from him. And I was like, wow, this took me from like, I'm good at this to like, oh, I get it now. Like I now had the fearless attitude. I now am willing to take these risks. I've built up the confidence by watching this guy. And that's when I realized, like, wow, there's such a difference between, oh, I've read a book and like, oh no, I've been doing this for years. The gap is massive between knowledge and execution. So like when people are shadowing with me, the people who are going to benefit the most from this, like you'll learn if you're in the chat room, but if you could sit with me in the voice channel, because I'm in voice talking all day about what I'm seeing on the market, what I'm watching, the different flows and orders that I'm watching, or the different news, like what actually matters. Like you're going to pick this up so much faster than you think if I'm in your ear saying, look at this, look at that, this matters, this doesn't matter. Oh my gosh, like stop panicking, here, we're fine, that you're going to pick it up so much faster on the day-to-day if you have that capability. So that's our mentorship package that we offer. That's $50. And I'm going to have to increase that faster than everything else because I can only have so many people in the voice chat. First of all, in the Discord, we're limited. And because there's only so many people I can kind of keep up with on a daily basis for the mentorship. So ideally I'd want to only work with like maybe 50 people tops that are listening to morning calls that I give where before the market opens, I'm already breaking down like this is probably what's going to happen today. This is what we're watching for. Usually 99% of the time, first hour of the market, I know how the rest of the day is going to go. And then throughout the day, talk to them. So that's what my main goal is and what I'm trying to do for people. But I mean, we have a 90% retention for our members. I feel like we're doing a really good job in the markets letting us know that almost no one ever leaves unless they did something stupid on their own and they know that. I've never ever had anyone ask for a refund. No one's ever left a bad review on us on any of the social medias. Like I've never had someone in my DMs angry at me. And so I think it's because we're open and honest about the reality of what this is like. Hey, you could lose money. You probably will lose money. You're going to have to pay your dues to learn, but trust me, the people who make it at this are the people stuck with it. Like that's it. There is no like if, ands, or buts there. People who made it are the ones who just stuck with it. A lot of them ate shit for a lot of years, and you just got to pay your dues. So, but if you're with us, you're gonna not make a lot of the mistakes I had to make to learn it.
I love
I
that,
can
man.
guarantee it.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're teaching two things, right? You're teaching what I like to
Yeah.
call, and I've been in sales my whole career. It's been a successful career. We all have what's called the it click moment. You ever heard of that before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So not many people have. If you're in sales out there and you're listening, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. It's the it click moment where You read the books, you watch the videos, none of it fucking matters. You know the information, but you don't really apply it. It doesn't make sense until you have the 8-click moment. So you're teaching that, right? That's part of it. You're teaching
Right.
the 8-click moment. And then 2, you're teaching to trust the process, right? Like, hey, like, it's like losing weight, right? Like, it's going to be really shitty for 8 months.
Yeah.
It's going to be really tough, right? You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. It's going to suck, it's going to be brutal. But what's the end result? The
That's
promised land.
beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Exactly right. And that's what you're teaching. I'm all
Yeah.
for that, man. I think and
Well,
90% retention is phenomenal.
yeah. Well, you never lose the skills. The skills you're gonna learn from us, you're never gonna lose. And trust me, if you spend a few years with us and then you try and go out on your own, you can always come back. I've had people. The reason it is 90% is we've had some people who basically, in my mind, they graduated. Oh, like I could do this on my own. Like, oh, that's awesome. Like that's the most exciting thing for me. And now those people we only talk in DMs. There's one guy in particular I could think of where he grew his account, he like 10x his account, and he's on his own now. And he'll send me ideas. And I'm like, that's a great idea. Yeah. That's a good trade. And so like we have some of those awesome success stories, and that's the greatest thing. Like you should be able to do this for a little bit and eventually level up and be like, oh, I get it now. So like that's amazing, and that should be what it is too. That's the same thing with my mentor when I was still a novice.
Yeah, I mean, I've had
Yeah.
mentors in my life as well. I've talked about it before. I had 3 mentors in my life. One was very, very rich, one was medium, and one was not very rich at all, very poor. And I've learned from all of them, right? But I've
Yeah.
graduated, like you said earlier, I love that word. I've graduated from the first one to the second, now working with the third, right? And like that's what it's all about. And they knew that, right? The mentors knew that, like, I'm going to train this guy to be better than me so he can graduate and
Right.
then reach the next level. That's what it's all about, man. That is what it's all about, is seeing the people that are under you grow in the right direction. And I agree with you 100%, man. Somebody takes your course and, they're with you guys in the club for fucking 12 months. There's no negative part of that. There's no downside because the information that let's say they're there for 12 months and then they jump ship, right? Okay, so be it. The information that you learn, you're going to retain forever. It's going to be relevant for you
Right.
every time you step in this court. I mean,
Right.
it's
Yeah, I'll have to check you guys out because I'm like financially illiterate. All this stuff is foreign to me, so I think this would be a great community to learn from. So I'll have to definitely check you out, Josh, and
Yeah.
get some
Well,
ends.
yeah, yeah, we love it. The great thing is that, and the thing I didn't quite expect would be the case is the networking you can do in that community now. That's much bigger than me at this point, has been awesome. Everyone has some sort of professional job, but it's awesome when I'm doing a bunch of AI research and then there's an AI coder in the Discord who's trying to learn trading from me that will tell me everything he knows or that he's learned so far. Like so there's I'm not saying we're doing insider trading by any means. That's definitely not happening. Do not come after me because I swear it's not what we do. But it's cool to be able to learn from the guys who are actually doing it. When I try to do all this research on a specific company, oftentimes I shouldn't say too often, but sometimes I'm stepping out of my realm of knowledge and trying to learn about this new company who does this thing that I'm not familiar with at all. I recently did a bunch of research in a company called Symbiotic who they do the AI engineering and robotics for all these hardware companies. They just signed a huge contract with Walmart. So like these warehouses, kind of like the robots you've probably heard that Amazon does,
Yep.
they're doing that for everyone else at a smaller a small to medium large-ish size for their warehouses. So learning all that was just foreign to me. I don't know anything about robotics. I don't know anything about AI. I had to study that for like 6 months, but yeah, that investment 3x'd in like 6 months after we were done doing that research though. So it pays well to also have people in the community where I could reach out, be like, hey, does this make sense that they're doing this? Or I
Yeah.
read this. Can you explain that to me so I really know what I'm doing before I dump a bunch of money into it?
It's all about just all the synergy, right? Learning in the right direction.
Right.
I know we're getting close on time, so I'll do this, man. So like obviously I think that we talked about your website earlier, man. I love it. I think it's awesome. It's straightforward, guys. If you go on this site, you'll find every little bit of information that you need there to make the right decision for you. But like, how would you like people to, like, what's the kind of game plan, right? If you wanted people to reach out and learn more about what you do, like what would you like to do? Go to the website, go to your social channels. Like, how can we send people to you?
Yeah. So if you want, I do a weekly report on YouTube every single week, a new video. I keep them about 10 minutes long. I break down everything I'm looking for on the market. I even share some of my trades and ideas. I've been doing that for about 3 years now. There's great content on there. To get too braggadocious there, but it just is. I think it's great content. You can go watch old ones if you want and see how accurate I've been over the past 3 years on some of those videos. And then if you want to see my trades and stuff, I share some of those to X. All right, these are free ways you could get to us without going to the website, because we got plenty of stuff on the socials you could check out. There's a lot of stuff you can learn from. I can give you all the education in the world and won't make you good at this. So I'll just toss it out there. Anything you want to know. I don't keep any secrets. There's no gatekeeping in what we do. Then go to the website, and that's the way you're going to be able to join the trading community to actually get all the nicely organized education and stuff, though, because that website and that community is going to be your holy grail for what you're trying to do. If you're trying to learn investing at a high level, how the pros do it, if you're trying to learn how to trade like a full-time trader, that's where you're going to find it. And a very spoon-fed method.
I love it, man. I think that's a great way for people to find you. I think as well as you're giving them a taste, right? Before, maybe they can validate some ideas and see the value before they actually make the subscription model. I love it, man. I love it. Absolutely. So tell me the name of your website one more time, so people out there that aren't watching this, they can listen to it. And then while we're doing that, I'll actually share my screen so people that are going to watch it, they can, kind of see the layout.
Yeah. So it's Nobelltrading.com. Nobelltrading. So that's Nobel, and bell as in, ring, 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 ring.
More bell.
Right.
Yeah. That's it. More cowbell. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Careful when you try to look us up, it'll try to say noble, and that makes us sound really pretentious and like we think we're nobility. That was not the goal. It's supposed to be like no bullshit.
So you guys see the Facebook page here, right?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, well, I see what I've seen is our website.
Okay, good. So that's what I thought. I'm trying to go.
Yeah.
I didn't know what screen was popping up for being shared, whatever. But yeah, so this is our website, guys. Obviously, Nobelltrading.com. Dude, this is going to be a great place for you guys to go learn some more. There's a ton of content on here. We kind of dissected the website before we started. There's a ton of content already on here, guys. You can see some good content as far as pictures goes. Obviously, there's some reviews there as well. All his pricing for his subscription memberships there. A cool little merch shop, too, if you want to join the club in that way. And then, obviously, our favorite disclaimer to make sure that, he's not giving financial advice, but just kind of giving you some good ideas. But, dude, I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah, appreciate it. I worked pretty hard on it for someone who does none at all website building.
It's all good, man. Like I said, it looks great. I got to figure out how to stop sharing my screen so we can wrap this up. I always forget how to do it on Zoom. Oh, God bless. How the hell do you do that? I am not. Oh, here it is. Bingo. I am not a Zoom guy. I am always a Microsoft ecosystem or a Google ecosystem guy. So
Our Teams guy? Your Teams guy?
Teams is so much better, dude. Oh my God. You can do anything. You can do anything on Teams, man. It's a CRM, it's a database, it's a storage. I mean, everything you can do it on Teams. It's your one-stop shop, in my opinion. It is, though, very cumbersome. I will say that. It's like your pack mule that can carry 5,000 pounds, but it's 10 feet tall and you can't put it in the garage. But anyways, guys, I'll tell you what, Josh, let's wrap it up here. I appreciate you being on, dude. This was awesome.
Yeah,
Love giving your insights. Guys, if you made it this far, please check out Josh and all of his stuff. The website's in there. We'll put a link in there as well. Give us some feedback on anything as well, of course. And if you've made it this far to the end of episode 28, thank you so much for joining us. Follow, like, share, subscribe, whatever the hell you do. Check us out. Send us a message. Scream at your neighbor. I don't care. But if you're going to do anything in this life, just try to be a little better. Thanks, guys.